Hi again guys, Russ from the future again. Just a quick intro into part 2. So this video is part 2 of the Birds and the Bees volume 2. The video was getting too long, it was split into 2 parts. So if you've not watched the first half yet, I suggest you go and do that before you watch this one. I'll try and put a thingy somewhere, if not down in the description, link to part 1. I'll see you later. So number 3, and the one that I use on my open ground, and the one that is possibly actually the most controversial, the one that a lot of people seem to have a lot of issue with, especially for those people who are new to allotments and don't know their allotment. And somebody like me comes along and says, "Oh, just hit it with Rotavator." And I don't disagree with the arguments. They are valid. I had a problem with mare's tail, I believe, because of manure and rotavating, but I've got on top of it now. But the problem, but the third one is rotavating. It's, for me, the most viable option because of my back. It's still hard work, but it's nowhere near as hard. So generally what I do is I will go get my alpaca manure or horse manure, or whatever you choose to use. I'll mix it in with the chicken manure, and then I'll put wheelbarrows worth of it all over my open soil area. I'm currently rebuilding a non-runner rotavator, but normally you get your hands on a rotavator now. You can rent one, you can buy one, but that's a bit of a minefield if you don't know what you're looking at. Or you can borrow one from your fellow allotment holders. Allotments are all about a community, and you'll tend to find that once you get to know them, a lot of people will say, "Oh yeah, borrow it." All I would say is get them some beers or some wine or something, if they drink. And make sure you always return something with more fuel in it than you borrowed it with. That's my personal thing. If I borrow something that's petrol powered from anybody, I always return it with a full tank, with the one exception of doing it at this time of year. But that's due to maintenance of tools and things like that, which I'm not going to go into. So generally at this time of year, what I'll do is I'll just slide him a fiver. The guy who I normally borrow, or used to borrow it off, does all his home brewing, so he was just thankful for wine bottles, demi-johns, anything like that I could get for him. But yeah, rotavating, so spots of manure, or whatever you're using as a fertiliser, as many as you can get out there, and up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down as many times as you can with a rotavator. Now the problem is, especially like this year, it's been too wet. I've not been able to rotavate, or I probably could if I had my own, because I know I've had my ground covered and I know it's safe. I know it's dry enough to rotavate. But if you rotavate when it's too wet, you'll actually ruin your soil structure. So be aware of that. And then, the motion of going up and down, up and down, up and down with the big mechanical rotavator, it spreads the fertilisers that you've put out. It distributes them throughout the entire layer of the soil, which for me is ideal because, as I've said, if I put everything down at the bottom, majority of it's going to wash away. So I need my fertilisers throughout my entire soil. And then that's pretty much it. That's pretty much job done. Now, obviously, like I say, on plot tours and things like that, you'll have seen pictures of my soil being freshly rotavated. The argument that a lot of people have against rotivation, or rotavating your allotment, is one that is valid, and that is, it does spread. If you've got weeds that are spread via rhizome, and that's by sections of root, you are going to spread those throughout the plot. That is going to happen, and I'm sorry, but if you're going to rotivate, there's nothing you can do against it. I took the gamble year one, and at the end of that season I regretted it, but I sorted it. So fingers crossed. And what happened with me is, I think there was some mare's tail seed in the horse manure that I spread, and I spread it everywhere. I mean, my plot was absolutely covered with it. I mean, if you've got mare's tail in your area, chances are at some point you will end up with it. It's a subterranean weed. It's horrible, but it's perfectly manageable. So you've got things like mare's tail and couch grass that you can spread throughout your entire plot with rotavating, and they can be a nightmare to get rid of. If you catch them early enough the following season when they're starting to grow, it will cost you a lot of time in weeding, possibly what you've saved in rotavating versus double digging. But for me, pulling weeds out in loose soil is easier than double digging my entire plot. For me, it may not be for you. So I don't regret my choice, not anymore, not to rotovate. I did when I first saw that mare's tail, because my initial injury with my back was in the growing season of year 2, so I wasn't able to weed it out and it took over. Having done my homework and realised actually mare's tail doesn't take away nutrients from the soil and things like that, but once again that's kind of not what we're trying to talk about here, you know. So they're pretty much the first and only 3 methods that I'm aware of. There is others out there. There's the do nothing method. One of the allotment holders was telling me he watched a documentary about a farm who's on his land he was massively struggling. He couldn't get anything to grow, and what essentially he did was he let nature reclaim the land, and then he decided to work with nature, and nature in turn replenished the land. There are other things you can do. There are green manures, things like that, which is what I'm going to experiment with. Probably the end of next growing season, I'm going to do green manures. I've now got the tools to be able to blanket sow green manure and then be able to trim it back. Because the thing with green manure is you have to seed it, let it grow, but then you have to chop it all down at the right time. And I mean, the right time can be a matter of 4 or 5 days. That's the right time, because what you don't want your green manure to do is to start to throw down seed again, or let it grow too tall and too woody so that it's not going to break down over winter. But just briefly, the idea behind green manure is, I believe around here they all use mustard, but you blanket your entire plot with the seed. You let it sprout, let it grow till it's a fair thing till it's grown a fair amount. I think for green manure mustard, it's about 6 to 8 inches. But you must catch it at 6 to 8 inches, or before it flowers. Once it flowers, it starts to go woody. Obviously, once it's flowered, it's starting to prepare seed. So you need to catch it before that. And what you do is you go along, you then trim it all down as low as you can. Or I suppose you could turn it in. But from what I've read, the idea is you trim it all down, you chop it all down, but you leave the roots in the soil as they are. So you've got the green manure on top breaking down and putting nitrogen back in your soil. You've then got your roots under the soil also breaking down. And of course what they're going to do is they're going to aerate your soil as well. Once they're gone, it's leaving little air pockets everywhere. So, but that's green manure in brief. Normally we'd talk about that at the end of spring. But no, to the best of my knowledge, there is no videos really for rotavating, because let's be honest, it's not a fun thing to watch. But essentially, what it is what the farmers do. You know, they go along, they spray a slurry all over their land, which is purely usually just water and manure. Probably a few other corrective chemicals in there, but And then they go along with their ploughs and they turn it all in. That's all rotavating is. It's just a smaller scale. Like I said, my hope was to have my own video here. Maybe I will by the time this goes live. I don't know. But that's it. That's pretty much your next steps. Your next steps. You've decided what you want to grow. You've decided where you want to grow. You've decided how you want to grow, whether it's open soil or raised beds or whatever. And then today we've discussed 3 ways of preparing your beds. So you've got your rotavating, your double dig. You start from the other way around. So you've got your double digging, your no dig, and your rotavating. They're your 3 main methods. Once again, links to at least to Castle Hill Garden and Charles Dowding in the description below, and they have been in cards all the way around. I'm going to jump on a bit of a bandwagon here, and I'm going to do the 3 things I would change challenge. I've not been nominated because I'm not very popular in the community. It's just that nobody knows me. I have seen a couple of other YouTubers record these videos and not nominate 3 at the end, and I think that's incredibly selfish. If you've been nominated, you should nominate 3. Unfortunately, a couple of the ones that I was going to nominate have since done their videos, so and maybe by the time this has gone out, they will have once again already done them, or they will have done more of them. So what I'm going to do, if you give me a moment, is discuss the 3 things that I would do differently next year to this year, or the 3 things I've learned. One of them I've already discussed, so that would have been know your weeds, know where your fertilizer's coming from. So, in my experience, obviously being a rotavator, I spread mare's tail everywhere. That was purely down to my own ignorance. And going forward, one of the reasons I've chosen alpaca manure is alpacas are like cows. They triple digest. There's little to no seed. They're also top grazers as well, so they don't really eat seed. But there's little to no seed in their manure, so in theory it's not a problem going forward. So it's one thing I've learned to do differently, and I am already doing differently. Number 2, don't be too eager to plant your seeds. Something that a lot of new allotment holders really struggle with is planting things too early, and losing their plants, or in the likes of some brassicas like cauliflowers, plant them too early so that they get too much heat, which will cause them to go straight to bolting. Hi again. Come on, get down. No, come on, get down. Because if planting things at the wrong time, or maybe the right time for them, doesn't necessarily get you the results you want. So hold off. Be aware of things like if you've a friend down in Cornwall and you live up in Edinburgh, they're going to be planting something a month earlier than you because they get the warmer weather or the more favourable weather for that particular plant sooner. So don't be too eager. And number 3, don't buy cheap compost. That would be, especially for your potting. I know a lot of people go wild for the Wilco stuff, and that can be hit and miss. I know 2 years ago it was horrendously bad. There were people finding glass, sticks, and I'm not talking little bloody pieces of wood, I'm talking sticks. All sorts in it, which is something that they seem to address in year 2. But people in year 2 were still complaining of it smelling of diesel. Now that's really weird, but people were complaining about it. But then expensive compost isn't without its faults. There was something this year with I think it was called pyrrolid. No, that's not right. But there was in some cases, and I believe it was very, very small, of a weed killer getting into some batches of compost, and even in this affected all composts. So I used Jack's Magic. I know people that had the problem with Jack's Magic. I didn't, but to the best of my knowledge, it only affected grass-based plants, so things like corn. They were all that were affected. This weed killer that they all got contaminated with was just something that was designed to kill grass. Sorry. So yeah, number 3, don't buy cheap compost. Many different reasons. Some allotmenters this year were using Verve. I know of one in particular, I'm not going to mention who it was, found glass in his, shards of glass in his Verve compost. You know, I, like I say, spent a little bit more, and when I say a little bit more, I mean I was getting three 80-litre bags of the Jack's Magic. Do they come in 80s? Might be 60s. Can't remember. The standard size bag of Jack's Magic, I was getting 3 of them for a tenner. So I was paying £3.26.5 or whatever it was, as opposed to the £2 for Verve. And I was more than happy. I had no failures. I'm still using it now. I'm using it twice, if not 3 times, for my potatoes, my pot grown potatoes. So, you know, I think that's the way it is. So, on to my nominations. They were going to be Dean from Dean's Lost the Plot, but I've literally just logged on and noticed that I think he did his yesterday evening, so that's a little bit gutting. So let me go through my list of people, and I'll come right back to you with my nominations for the 3 YouTubers that I want them to talk about 3 things they would do differently next year. Hey, so I'm back. The 3 that I've decided to nominate, and I just wanted to check one of them and make sure he hasn't already done it. And one of them I've already mentioned and carded, and I want to mention Castle Hill Garden because I think with his wealth of experience, I'd like to see what he would do differently. I really would. I think it would be very, very interesting. The second one is going to be the Allotment Gardener. That's a gent called Mark, I believe is down in Nottingham. The third one is Angela's Kitchen Garden. I think her videos are brilliant, and her garden's beautiful. So you've been tagged. There's no real time limit. There's no. If you don't do it, I'm come and find you, because that's not going to happen because I'm lazy. But yeah, you've been tagged. I'm going to put the links to their channels in the descriptions, and obviously the cards for as many of them as I can. So hopefully you've got something useful out of this video. I may throw little graphics in here, there and everywhere, but hopefully you've got something useful. Sasha, you have been a real pain in the butt. Sorry. But she's going to be like it all day. It's pointless me re-recording. If you've any questions, find us on the Conversation Shed on YouTube. Not on YouTube, on Facebook. Dear me. Sling me a message or comment on this video. We always try our best to get back to commenters as quickly as possible. But we are on Facebook, and that is generally the best place to get us. And that's facebook.com/convo shed, or just search Conversation Shed. We're the ones with the potato with the little iconic thing called Winston. We also have an Instagram page that's set up by the fishing lads that do the fishing series on here, and that's Rod and Pollux on Instagram. But if you like what we do here, please subscribe. Check out the rest of our videos. If you like them, hit the like button. If you don't, by all means hit the dislike button. Please let us know what we could do differently. Please do, because if you're hitting that dislike button and it's for a reason, you don't like some of the content that we're providing, or you think there's something we could do better or different, tell us. Please tell us, and we will try to cater to as many ideas as we possibly can. So I'm hoping that this is going to be a bit helpful. I think the next one to go along with this, I just don't want this to be too long, is I'm going to talk about fertilisers, different types of fertiliser. So anything from manures to composts to your powder and your chemical fertilisers such as grow more, bloodfish and bone. Is it bone and hoof? That's horn and hoof. That's the one, which he talks about at length on Castle Hill Garden, and what they do for your soil. So I think that's going to be next. Sorry, there's not really any money saving tips for you in this one, although I suppose technically the no dig one might be a bit of a money saving tip. Get yourself established, find a manure provider, perhaps look at doing things like that. Even if you start collecting your manure through the coming season, making yourself a huge heap. I mean, don't underestimate how much you're going to need. Do the maths, measure your grow space, find out your square meterage or your square footage depending on what you want to do, and then do the maths to find out how many tons you're going to need to fill it 2 or 3 inches deep. I guarantee you will be surprised. I guarantee you will be surprised at how much you actually need. It's astonishing. It genuinely is. I think my raised beds have taken somewhere in the region of 3 tons, and they're still not done. So, bear that in mind. You know what? I'm going to tag a fourth because I think his videos are brilliant, and he talks about something that I want to talk about in the next video, which is worm castings and wormy post. I can't remember what they call it, but that is a channel called London Worms and Garden. It talks all about creating your own wormeries as well as growing stuff in the things. So I know it's breaking the rules slightly, it's supposed to only be 3, but I'm going to tag 4 because I really think his videos are brilliant. So, and like me, gets his family involved and things like that, so support where I can. So well, I'm going to tag them, consider them tagged. So that, just to run down again, London Worms and Gardens, I've forgotten now, Allotment Gardener, Angela's Kitchen Garden, and Castle Hill Garden. Consider yourselves tagged in the 3 things you'll do differently next year challenge. Until next time, I'll see you later.